Niti Namane. Vaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarane. I'm not sure what's happening with this thing. Okay, it went away. All right. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we are continuing with the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. We covered up until text 46, I think. So let's go to text 47. Karmanyevadikaraste ma padeshu kadachana ma karma palaheturbur mate sangos tvakarmani. That's chapter 2, text 47. Let's see. So Krishna says, you have a right, Arjuna, to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. And then he says in the next verse, perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. So this is, we saw how Arjuna was on the battlefield and he was very emotional about having to fight with Bhishma and Drona and other of the Kuru family elders and their allies out there who were friends and relatives of him. And the last thing he wanted to do was to kill them. And he came up with very good excuses, right? What were his reasons for not wanting to fight? 5 reasons. Anybody know?
Mataji, please repeat the question.
What were Arjuna's 5 reasons for not wanting to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra?
Attachment to
Yes,
the
Ishvar.
family.
Oh, please raise your hand in this kind of scenarios.
Hare Krishna.
Ishvar, go ahead.
Enjoyment, destruction of dynasty, indecision, and sinful reactions. So,
What was the first one you said?
enjoyment.
Enjoyment. Okay, so the first one is enjoyment. He's thinking, how am I going to be happy? I won't be able to enjoy myself, even if I win the kingdom, because it's going to be tainted by the blood of my dear relatives. And then sinful reactions was the next one. He's thinking that, oh, it's going to be very sinful to kill my grandfather, kill my teacher, kill all these people. How horrible. I'm going to suffer sinful reactions. And then the third one,
Destruction of dynasty.
destruction of dynasty. Okay, he was thinking that the men will be dead, the women will be unprotected, they'll be taken advantage of by some lustful men, and there'll be unwanted children, and all of the religious activities of society will be stopped. Okay, what was the fourth one?
Indecision.
What's that?
Indecision.
Indecision, right? He didn't know what to do. So if you don't know to do or not to do, then don't do. And then there's one more, isn't there?
I forgot it.
Anybody remember?
Compassion.
Compassion, yes. He was thinking, he was feeling compassion that these poor people are all going to die, right? And that was the one that actually Krishna, that was the first one that Krishna addressed. And he said that, Arjuna, it's nice, that you're a soft-hearted person. This is a natural quality of a devotee to be compassionate for all souls. But unfortunately, your compassion is misplaced. It's misdirected, right? Because why was Arjuna's compassion misdirected?
because of attachment with his family.
Okay, yeah, he was particularly attached to the family. Maybe if they weren't family members, he wouldn't have bothered, right? So it's kind of like he's attached to the family. And another reason, Krishna Priya. Oh, you have your hand up there?
Because he was, yeah, yeah, sorry, because he was looking after their body. He was not thinking about their soul.
Yeah, so his
And the
compassion
real
was for the
compassion
body.
is based on our soul.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So we told that story about saving the dress of a drowning man, right? That the swimmer goes out there and gets the shirt or the coat of the drowning person and says, "Here, I've saved your husband. Aren't you happy?" And she's like, "No, you didn't save him at all. You only saved his shirt." So, yeah. Prabhupada also gives the example of the bird in the cage, right? Old woman has a bird, but she polishes the cage and cleans the cage, but she doesn't feed the bird, and the bird dies. So, yeah, we only care about the body. It's like that. It's like only saving the shirt, only polishing the cage. So that's the situation. Okay. So those are so Arjuna gave these 5 reasonably good reasons, nice, pious, religious, righteous reasons for not wanting to fight. And then Krishna just started dismantling them one after the other, taking them apart. Right? So the first, what pleasure will we derive? How did Krishna defeat his enjoyment argument? What did he say?
Paramkant.
What's that?
Paramkant. Krishna says he does your karma.
So your
You are
voice is
Kshatriya,
breaking up.
you have to, Mataji, Krishna says you are Kshatriya and you have to do that. This is your karma.
This is your dharma. Yeah, he says, happy are those Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come, right? Because they open the doors to the heavenly planets. So he's kind of giving if you're interested in material enjoyment, then this is the way to enjoy, is by fighting according to your duty, fulfilling your dharma and getting the good results. Because from dharma comes artha, from artha comes kama. Right? You get enjoyment by doing your dharma, not by neglecting it. Okay, and then how did Krishna defeat his argument that I'll get sinful reactions?
Because it is a duty of Kshatriya. If you're not fulfilling your duty,
Yeah, he said actually you'll get sinful reactions for not doing your duty. But if you do your duty in Krishna consciousness, then you become free from sinful reactions. Okay? And he's going to say that many times throughout the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, that's going to be the conclusion, right? Sarva dharmam parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchai. That I'll free you. If you just surrender to me, I'll free you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Do not worry. Okay, then, so that's that. Compassion. How did Krishna defeat the compassion argument? Rocky? Sorry, you have to unmute yourself. I can't hear anything. Rocky, you need to unmute. Or I can probably
Yeah.
unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Krishna teaches Arjun that this is the only body, this is the material body. Soul cannot be destroyed or reborn or something like that. That is, soul is eternal, and it's like yes, soul is eternal. So you don't have to attach this bodily world.
Good. Yeah. So the soul is eternal. You can't actually kill the person. The body is temporary. It's going to die anyway. And Yeah, even if you think there's no soul, that the person is only a body and it's only just a lump of chemicals, who's going to cry over spilled chemicals, right? It's nothing to lament. Whatever way you look at it, there's no reason to lament. So your
Yeah,
compassion
there is
is not.
also verse 2.20, na jayate, na jayate, priyate. That's the verse also.
Yeah. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. You can't
Yeah,
kill the
yes,
soul.
yes.
Okay, so that's compassion. And then destruction of dynasty. I think we didn't get to that. I think that comes in chapter 3. And indecision. Well, indecision. He's getting Krishna, the whole Bhagavad Gita is basically finishing with Arjuna's indecision. Krishna's making it very clear what's the right thing to do, what's the right decision to make. And from the very beginning of Arjuna's inquiries, he says, I'm asking in 2:7, he says, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. He's like, I don't know what to do. I can't make a decision. I've lost my discretion. So you please, you know better than I do. Please just tell me what to do. So that's going to solve his indecision problem. Okay, good. Thank you. So, and someone was asking that on the WhatsApp group what the 5 reasons were. So I hope you noted those down. Those are the 5 reasons. Let's go on now to talk about let's see. Yeah, so this chapter 2 is giving Krishna is responding to Arjuna's arguments, and he's also laying out the foundation for bhakti by taking us up the yoga ladder, right? He's talking about different types of yoga. He's talking about karma yoga, right? Sakam karma yoga, or karma yoga that's done with material desires. That even if you have material desires, still if you do them in connection with the Lord, it's beneficial. But then he says, best, don't think about your own happiness. Don't think about these things. Just do thou fight for the sake of fighting. He says in text 38. Don't consider victory or defeat, happiness or distress, and you'll be free from all sin. So then he addresses karma yoga. Now he goes into Buddha yoga, and he emphasizes knowledge, right? Knowing the nature of yoga. Yoga means connecting with Krishna, and whatever we do in connection with Krishna is 100% successful. Right? He says in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution, and even a little advancement on this path can protect us from the most dangerous type of fear. Can protect us from, going to hell, from having to take an animal birth, even if we do a little bit of service in Krishna consciousness. And also we were talking about the benefits of serving Krishna or being a devotee, making our goal to be a pure devotee of Krishna, is that we have one aim, one goal. We just focus on Krishna and everything becomes aligned for that purpose. We can connect everything with Krishna because ultimately Krishna is everything. Everything belongs to him. Everything is controlled by him anyway. So either we're going to be serving him directly or indirectly. But if we serve him indirectly by basically serving our senses and serving the mind's demands and the dictations of Maya under the influence of the 3 modes of nature, then we're going to be confused and bewildered and miserable. But if we serve him directly by actually taking shelter of Krishna, taking guidance from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, then everything becomes clear. The path becomes clear, it becomes easy, it becomes blissful, and everything is nice. So that's what Krishna's giving this knowledge. And then he's saying that people that don't act in Krishna consciousness, who try to, live for sense gratification, there's also Vedic processes for them, right? Like karma kanda, but these people are not very intelligent because, because the results are just temporary. They're just limited. They get attached to these things. It's difficult to get detached from them. And then the result is that it spoils their Krishna consciousness. Okay, so he says, instead of getting distracted by the flowery language of the Vedas, you should know the purpose of the Vedas. which is to bring people to Krishna consciousness. Okay, so that brings us up to text 47. That was just a little review of what we've been talking about last week. So now Krishna is saying that, yeah, anyways, you have to do your duty. So just do your duty, but you don't do it without attachment to the results. And understand that the cause of the fulfillment of your duty is me, Krishna is saying. That Krishna is the one who brings the results, right? We make the effort, but the results are up to Krishna. And because the results are up to Krishna, that means the results belong to Krishna. And our part is just making the effort. And Krishna rewards us for our efforts. So if we don't make the effort, in other words, we don't do our duties, then we get in trouble. Then we're irresponsible. So Prabhupada says here that one should act, everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Such disinterested, obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. That's from the purport of text 47. So when Prabhupada says disinterested, obligatory duties, he means obligatory that we have to do it. We can't avoid doing our duties. But disinterested means that, not that I don't care about my duty, but I'm not interested. I'm not doing it just because I'm interested in the result. I'm doing it because I have to, because it's my duty. So that's in the mode of goodness. And then if we're doing it without any attachment to the result, then it's easy to be equipoised, because whatever happens, it's like, fine, you know? Oh, well, if I win the battle, then that's because Krishna wanted me to win the battle, and I'm happy to do whatever Krishna wants me to do. And if I lose the battle, then that's because Krishna wanted me to lose the battle, and I'm happy with whatever Krishna wants me to do. So in either case, I'm happy because I accept that Krishna is the supreme controller and the results are up to him. And when the results are up to the supreme controller, that means the results are always going to be what they should be. Whether I like them, whether my material mind likes them or not, you know, as a soul, I'm happy because Krishna's will was done, as it always is. Raki, you have a question?
Yes, Mataji. My question is that attachment is real. As we are in the world, we have our relatives or my children or my father, my mother, or whatsoever. So we are literally attached to them. However, we understand that we are soul, we are not this body. But as like Krishna, who was the supreme power, supreme Lord, was with the Arjun, in spite of that, Arjun feel that pain and sorrow when his own son was killed after the Bhagavad Gita, after the Gita Gyan, which gives Krishna to Arjun. But in spite of that, Arjuna feels that sorrow, pain, or grief when his son was killed, or when his own relatives were killed. So he was, when the Lord was with him, he feels pain and sorrow. We are in this world, we are the nothing in the if we compare ourselves with Arjuna, that we are nothing, we don't have such knowledge or anything. So how to control, how to like do with this, how to detach ourselves with our own relations?
Yeah, so Prabhupada says that, you know, family members and children are natural objects of affection. And so, but affection and attachment are two different things. So attachment means that, you know, it's basically the way that attachment is used in this sense is that we're attached to them because we want to in some way enjoy them. We want to enjoy the relationship. You know, sometimes parents get attached to their children because, you know, they enjoy their children. They enjoy caring for them and watching them grow, and, you know, the way they talk and the little things that they do and the way they entertain them. And then they also think, oh, these children are going to grow up and they're going to earn money and they're going to maintain me in my old age. So, you know, they kind of they become attached to the enjoyment and advantages they can get out of their children, right? That's kind of how materialistic parents are. But devotee parents, they see that this child is not ultimately my child, but Krishna, this is a soul, eternal soul that Krishna has put in my care, and to try to help them make further steps on their journey back home, back to Godhead. And Krishna has his own plan for this child's life. And I need to do my duty as a mother or father or, another relative in guiding this soul to perfect their human form of life. And if Krishna's plan for this child is that they need to be taken away from me prematurely or whatever, then we have to ultimately accept that. Right? But it doesn't mean that we don't love our children. It doesn't mean we don't care for them or don't have affection for them. But at the same time, we see that their existence is something beyond our relationship in this lifetime. Right? They're an eternal soul. I'm an eternal soul. For a brief span of time, Krishna has brought us together, and time will also separate us sooner or later within this lifetime or when the lifetime ends. And that's just the way it is. That's just what it is. In the scriptures, there's many examples for this. Like in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that sometimes it's like there's a river and there's some straw or leaves floating on the river, and sometimes the currents of the river make the leaves come together into like a mass, and they're flowing together down the river. And then sometimes the wind or the currents of the river change and they spread out and go their own way, and they don't come back together again. Or he says sometimes it's like there are travelers, and night comes and they all need a place to stay, so they check into a hotel. So these travelers they're not traveling together, they're coming from different parts, different directions, but they come to the same town and they stay at the same guest house. Maybe they have dinner together, they talk, where are you from, where are you going, what is your business? Like they talk, they make friends. And then next morning, time to check out. One goes one way, one goes the other. They never see each other again. So our family relationships in this world are basically like that. Those are the comparisons that are made. That, we come together. Children are born in a certain family. They become brothers and sisters, and parents and children. We're together for some short time, like 50, 60, 70, 80 years, maximum 100 years. And then we go another way, we go our separate ways. We came from different directions, we go in different directions, and for this short span of time, we're together. But these bodily relationships are temporary. But if we make spiritual relationships, right, if we actually support each other spiritually, if the parents guide the children in Krishna consciousness, like Shiksha gurus, if the brothers and children, the siblings, they support each other in their Krishna consciousness, serve together, if they make their home a temple, then to the extent that those relationships become actual spiritual relationships, then they can also have eternal significance. Not necessarily that we're going to go back to Godhead and be, brothers and sisters in the spiritual world, in a family of Gopas or something in Vrindavan. But it just, those relationships become more meaningful.
Yes, of course, you know that, but actually this is very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. In theory, it makes sense. In application, it's very difficult because we become very emotionally involved. Yeah, agreed. No one said it was easy. Gitika.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, I want to say something. It's my real experience, like in this life. Back to 2020, I started doing devotional services. Like I started reading Bhagavad Gita and taking class of Bhagavad Gita from the Mughal Prabhuji. And day by day, as I study Bhagavad Gita, continue reading Bhagavad Gita, I now the 2025, I'm feeling like I am feel so much detached from the things. Uh, Feeling like it's continue reading Bhagavad Gita, continue reading Shastras. You will become detached sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Detachment is a natural consequence of devotional service, right? That's what it says that, what's that verse from Bhagavatam? Causeless knowledge and detachment. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. What is it? Let's see if we can find it. I'm just going to look up this verse. It's from first chapter, first canto. First canto Bhagavatam, second chapter. All right, oh shoot, sorry. Canto 1, chapter 2. This text. Just a second. Now I got stuck on this. Causeless knowledge and detachment. Oh, 127. 127. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Jana Yatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahetukam. So here it says, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So yeah, Janayat Yashu Vairagyam means detachment. Jnanam Cha Yad Ahetukam. So if we just render devotional service, right? Bhakti Yoga Prayojita to Vasudev. Vasudev Bhagavati. Lord Krishna, who is son of Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we automatically, right, without even trying for it, automatically we get this causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So yeah, for the past 5 years, you've been doing Krishna consciousness, chanting, studying Bhagavad Gita. That's all devotional service. And as a result, you're getting detachment, right? We can
Yes.
experience that.
Yes.
Not just detachment, but just detachment from anything. All the things that we used to do. Maybe you used to like watch TV. Maybe you used to like to go out and watch movies or eat at restaurants or,
Yeah,
listen to
exactly.
mundane music. And just by practicing Krishna, you don't even have to try. You're just no longer interested in those things. Sometimes you might meet with your old friends and they'll be talking about gossip or material things or whatever, and you're just like, oh my God, this is so tasteless. I want to just go away from here, right? And you used to enjoy those things, but now you don't enjoy them anymore because Krishna has blessed you with some detachment, some realization. Yeah. So that's good. And the more you keep studying, the more you become detached, but in healthy ways, right? We shouldn't artificially. See, that's where devotees get themselves in trouble, is when artificially, prematurely, they try to be detached. So like, let's say a devotee will want to get married. So, they have desire to get married, desire to have family, all that. So they get married, but then they're like, oh, I should be detached. And then so the man doesn't talk to his wife. He just treats her he's very cold or something like that. But inside, he's very attached, right? He still wants to be with her, still has his desires, but he's pretending to be detached. Then it becomes unhealthy. Then it causes relationship problems, right? It becomes an unhealthy marriage. And so,
Or even instead of this,
what's
we
that?
can, or instead of this, we can do that. Be with man, be with that man when you were married, and start Krishna consciousness, start devotional service with him, and in that way you live your Krista life. Make him spiritual too.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of that, just work with the attachments. Acknowledge that, okay, I have these attachments, I have these desires, but I want to try to do everything in a nice, clean, healthy, Krishna conscious way. And we can be affectionate. So instead of being internally attached and externally pretending to be detached, we can be, internally detached by Krishna consciousness. And then externally, we can still be affectionate. But because internally we're attached, we can be affectionate in pure ways, you know, and ways that make everybody feel sheltered and loved and cared for. Okay, Kishori?
Ji Mataji,
Yes, you have a question?
Mataji, my question is that in chapter 2, verse 47, Krishna is saying, Karmanya adhitara se ma palishi tadachana. He is saying that we have right to perform dharma, not deciding result. So, Mataji, why Arjun was not performing his dharma as Kshatri and was concerned about their future?
Say the question again.
That
Just the end
Mataji,
part.
Krishna is saying, Karmanya adhitara se ma palishi tadachana.
Yes.
We have right to perform dharma, not deciding result.
Yeah.
So Mataji, why Arjun was not performing his dharma as Kshatri and was concerned, very concerned about his future?
I'm not I understand the first part. I don't understand. I just can't understand what you're saying. Like it's not clear to me.
Which
You're
part?
saying, so Mataji, why what I hear you, what I think you're saying is you're saying, so Mataji, why is it that the Kshatriyas have to perform their duty?
No, Mataji.
No.
Arjun was not. Why Arjun was not performing his dharma as Kshatri?
Oh, why Arjuna was not performing? Yeah, because I mean, Krishna's telling him this now that you have a right. I mean, he's saying adhikar. Adhikar means right. It also means responsibility, right? He's saying that you have a responsibility to perform your duty, but you shouldn't be attached to the result. So, see, the reason that Arjuna didn't want to perform his duty of fighting was because he was attached to the result, right? If we just look at all of the reasons he gave for not fighting, they all had to do with the result, the consequences, right? He's thinking the consequences are I won't be happy. Consequences are I'm going to get sinful reaction. Consequences are that the dynasty will be destroyed. Consequences are, you know, Varna Sankara and whatever. So he's he's neglecting his duty because he's thinking about the fruits of his action. But Krishna's saying, look, you just do your duty and don't worry about the consequences because your duty is to fight. And the consequences are not up to you. The consequences are up to me. You understand?
Ji Mataji.
Okay, good. Thank you. Raki?
Yes, Mataji, 1 second. I have read that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Prabhu took sannyas at the age of 24. So
Yeah.
is is it right to left your family without any सहारे को क्या बोलते हैं? Without any support?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lord Chaitanya was a unique situation because he's the supreme personality of Godhead. And he came here with a mission to, you know, spread the Yuga Dharma. And he was trying to preach, but people weren't listening to him. As a Grihasta, people weren't taking the message seriously. And so he thought, I know, as a preaching strategy, I'm going to take sannyas because then these students, these arrogant students, are going to have to, you know, respect me and listen to me. And also the Mayavadis will listen to me. I can go and get into the Mayavadi Sangha and speak to them about Vaishnavism. So he did it not to set the example of what we should do, but he did it as a preaching strategy because he saw no other way to influence certain groups of people that he needed to influence to teach them Krishna consciousness. But that's not advisable now. Prabhupada gave sannyas to young men because that's all he had. And Prabhupada was in an emergency situation. He needed to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and he had only young people. So he gave those young people sannyas, and most of them were not married though, so it wasn't irresponsible to the family, or they didn't have children at least. So it was not such a problem. But nowadays in ISKCON, the sannyas ministry is very careful. They don't give sannyas to young men anymore. I think you have to be at least 45 years old. And even then, they put you on a 5-year waiting list and they monitor you, and you have to take all kinds of training and classes and mentorship and things. And then only you can take sannyas. So they do it very, very carefully now.
Arjuna to do his duty as a Kshatriya. So everyone has to do our own duty, what is on us. So that's why I asked the question that is it okay to left our family without any support or something, because they set examples for us and we have to we all have to follow their paths. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Yeah, no, if someone gets married, that's like a 25-year commitment, right? You have a responsibility for the next at least 20 years until usually 25 years at least, children are grown up. You have to take care of the children, take care of the wife, and then after that we can talk about sannyas. Okay. All right, so let's go on here. Let's see. Someone please read 49 to 51.
Yes, Mataji. Text number
Go ahead.
49. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Text number 50. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in his life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work. Text number 51. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
Yeah. Yeah, so Krishna is continuing here with the Buddhi Yoga section. He's giving knowledge, how to use your intelligence to make good decisions in Krishna consciousness. So his main point here is that when you perform your duty in Krishna consciousness, then in surrender to the Lord, then you can keep all abominable activities or all abominable or all, sinful reactions far away. Not only sinful reactions, but even the good reactions. In other words, you get free from all karma. So sometimes devotional service is compared to a fire. Whatever you throw in the fire, it gets burnt to ashes. So devotional service is like a fire, and whether you have bad karma or good karma or whatever you have, it gets burnt up. So then somebody might think, well, I don't want my good karma to be burnt up. I want to keep my good karma, right? Because that's going to bring me good things. But the problem with even good karma is that we have to take birth in the material world to enjoy the results of our good karma. So even good karma means bondage. Any kind of karma binds us to the cycle of repeated birth and death. And he's saying that once you're free from all good and bad karmic reactions, then you're free from the cycle of birth and death. And you can go back home, back to Godhead. So this is very important knowledge. That simply by connecting everything that we do, doing our duty and doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, we get free from all karma and we can go back to Godhead. Otherwise, we can do good activities in this world and have a relatively good life, but we're still stuck in this world, right? This world is sometimes compared to a prison or a jail. So in prison, there's different kinds of criminals, right? Some are very bad, like, psychopathic chain killers, serial, what do you call them? Serial killers. Really, really very bad, very dangerous people. And some of them, maybe they just, they stole something from the store, or they got too many speeding tickets or something, driving the car too fast. So they're not so dangerous to other people. They're just, not very careful or not very smart. They're not, evil and murderous. So then if you're like a really psychopathic serial killer, then you get locked up like in solitary confinement. Sometimes they'll chain you or something, and you have to just stay in that cell with no window or whatever for, a long period of time, maybe your whole life. And then you have another person who they just, stole some potato chips, some what do you call them? Yeah, chips, crisps, or whatever. some namkeens from the store, and they got arrested. They got put in jail because they couldn't pay their fine or something. So then that guy, he gets put with other inmates. They're together. He has people to talk to. Maybe they let them go outside and cut the grass on the side of the highway, under supervision, so they get some fresh air. They can do some activity. It's not too bad, like you're still in jail, but it's better than being locked up in a cell in solitary confinement. So the cell in solitary confinement is like, hellish planets or animal life. You can't do anything. And then something in the middle is like human life. And then the one where you get to go out and cut the grass on the highway, that's like heavenly planets. You get a little bit of freedom and you think you're doing well. But none of them is really freedom. The real freedom is when you actually get out of this prison. You get released from jail and you can live a normal life as a free civilian in the world. So that's what we want. We don't just want a good condition in the prison or a relatively good position in prison. We want to get out of jail and go home, and live our real life with our real family and our real friends. And yeah, so that's what he's saying. So how to get out of jail? We need to get free from all of our karma, good karma and bad karma, all of it. And when we're free from karma, then we can get free from jail and we can go back to Godhead as long as we cultivate our Krishna consciousness at the same time, right? Kishori. Kishori, how
Ji
old are you?
Mataji,
What is your age?
12.
Oh my God, I thought you had a baby face. Okay, go ahead.
Mataji, I have one more question that if anyone wants to live 60 years and that happens before 60 years, so Mataji, so what happened to their soul and they go to which uni?
So if somebody dies at a young age, they die prematurely. It doesn't matter what age you die, it matters what is your consciousness, right? If you're very Krishna conscious, then even if you die at age, 25, you can still go back to Godhead. It's all about your consciousness. Age, in one sense, is irrelevant, right? Because we're not the body, and the soul does not age. Only the body ages, right? We read about that verse that says that as we pass through childhood to youth to old age, similarly, the soul goes to another body at death. But even, now you're 12 years old, so you can remember when you were 4 years old, right? Or 5 years old. So your body is very different now than it was then, but you're still the same person. Otherwise, you wouldn't remember anything, right? And then later you'll be, 50 years old and you'll look back and remember, oh, I was 12 and I did Bhakti Shastri. I had this teacher from America, Prabhupadapriya, right? You'll remember that. Your body will be very different. You have some old body with gray hair and wrinkled skin and your knees are paining you every time you stand up, right? But but you're the same person. So it doesn't matter your age, it just matters how you develop your consciousness. Your spiritual advancement is the important thing. So it's good that from a young age you're taking your Krishna consciousness very seriously.
Ate Mataji.
Okay. So let us. All right. So Krishna, yeah, he's concluding this little section here from 49 to 51, saying how when we use our intelligence, right? When you're, oh, I didn't read 52. That's okay. When you use your intelligence, see karma jam buddhi yukta hi. Buddhi means intelligence and yukta means when it's connected to Krishna. Intelligence engaged in devotional service. So when we use our intelligence to basically understand God, who am I? Why am I suffering? Who is God? How can I connect with him? Then that intelligence can take us from illusion to transcendental Krishna consciousness. Okay, now in the next verse, Krishna's going to explain how that happens. So let's read 52 and 53. Someone, please. Yes, Mehak Mulani.
Hare Krishna. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of the delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. Text number 53. When your mind is no longer distributed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of the self realization, then you will attain the divine consciousness.
Joy. Yeah, so this is the great opportunity that we have in the human form of life, that we actually have a high level of intelligence, right? The human intelligence is so much superior to any other species of life. We are the human species is the only species of life that where we can start asking philosophical questions, right? Like, who am I and why am I here? So when we use our intelligence for this purpose, then Krishna, he enriches our intelligence with spiritual understanding. And we can get out of illusion, and we can make the best use of this bad bargain of having a material body by using it in Krishna's service and going back to Godhead. Okay. So, we shouldn't be disturbed or distracted by the flowery language of the Vedas, but we should understand, as Krishna said before, understand the purpose of the Vedas, which is to know Krishna. And when we understand that all Vedic knowledge, the whole purpose of life is to reawaken our loving relationship with Krishna, then we can remain fixed in the trance of self-realization, right? Then we can have samadhi. Because remember back in the other verse, he was saying that if you're too absorbed, bogaishvarya prasaktanam, taya parita chetasam, vyavasayatmika buddhir, samado na vidiyate. He's saying if you're too attached to sense gratification and material opulence, then samado na vidiyate. You won't be able to attain samadhi. You won't be able to come to that stage of absorption in Krishna consciousness because you'll always be distracted by your desires for sense gratification. But if you can use your intelligence to you engage your intelligence in Krishna consciousness, then you can get free from illusion. This illusion that I can be happy in the material world, right? That's the big illusion. Big illusion is that sense gratification will make me happy. If I can just eat what I want to eat, go where I want to go, have a relationship with the person I want to have a relationship with, get the latest phone or car or whatever that I want, then I'll be happy. That's the big, big illusion. So he says, when your intelligence is passed out of the dense forest of delusion, when we're free from that illusion that anything material will make us happy, then we'll be able to really understand that the purpose of the Vedas is not sense gratification, it's Krishna. And then we'll no longer be distracted by those things. And then samadav achala buddhis. Then our buddhi, our intelligence, can be firmly situated in samadhi, right? Achala. Achala means like a mountain. It's like, it's like fixed. It's not moving. It's totally just unflinching. And Prabhupada translates it. So that's what we want. Okay, so now in this verse 53, Krishna answers by saying, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So now this makes Arjuna curious. So now Arjuna is going to ask, oh, divine consciousness, that sounds very interesting. What is divine consciousness? What does that look like? What does it mean to have transcendental consciousness? So that's how he's going to start the next section. Next section, Arjuna is going to ask questions about this. So someone please read text 54.
Mataji, me.
Yes.
Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in the transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?"
Okay. So, yeah, if we want to develop transcendental consciousness, which we all should if we're intelligent, we should want to develop transcendental consciousness, then we need to know what it looks like, right? Otherwise, how do we know what we're even trying to achieve? So Arjuna asks 4 different questions here, and Krishna is going to answer them one after another. And from Krishna's answers, we're going to get a nice comprehensive list of all the different characteristics that we can use to measure our own advancement in spiritual life, right? We can look at this list and we can think, okay, do I have this quality? Do I have this characteristic? How transcendental am I? Right? So this is very practical. And when we start to see these characteristics of transcendental consciousness actually manifesting in our own personalities, then we can understand that the process of Krishna consciousness is working. Right? And we can also understand who is an advanced devotee, so that we can know who to take shelter from, who to take instructions from, who to accept as a spiritual master. Right? Because the spiritual master should be situated in transcendental consciousness. Okay, so we need to know, how does a person in transcendental consciousness sit? How do they talk? How do they walk? How do I know? So let's read, please read text 55.
Mataji, may I?
Mataji, may I?
Yes. Oh, we have some hands up though. Let's take Sunil.
Hare Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desires for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind thus purified finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be the pure transcendental consciousness.
Okay, so here, see the first question that Krishna is answering here is, what is his language? So what is his language? So yeah, by asking that question, Arjuna is not asking, whether the transcendentalist speaks English or Hindi or Urdu or French or Spanish. He doesn't mean what is his language, like what is his actual language that he speaks. He means more like, what is his lifestyle, right? Because language can also mean a way of living that communicates your values. Like say if there are 2 people who are very similar, right? They have very similar values, very similar behavior, very similar philosophy of life. Then we say they speak the same language, right? There's a saying like that. They say, oh, those two, they're such a good match. They totally speak the same language. Right? In other words, if you ask them a question about, what is important to you, they're both going to have a similar answer. And so like that. So also there's different languages, right? We talk about love languages, or we could say the language of mathematics or the language of dance. So language means your philosophy of life or the way that you communicate, right? So then what Arjuna is asking is, what is the language of transcendence, or what is the language of the soul? And so Krishna answers in this verse that the language that people in transcendental consciousness speak, or in other words, their philosophy of life, is that life is not for sense gratification, right? When a person, they give up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, understanding that those desires are just coming from mental concoction. They're not actually coming from the soul itself. It's just coming from the mind, materialistic mind. And so in order to give up these desires, they engage themselves in processes of bhakti to purify the mind, right? Like chanting Hare Krishna, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, it purifies the mind very powerfully. And then when his mind is thus purified, then he's able to find satisfaction in the self alone. So that's the symptom of a person in Krishna consciousness. And we were talking about that before, that as we perform bhakti, then we develop a healthy detachment or aloofness from mundane conversations and material activities. We just don't speak that language anymore, right? We forgot that language. It's like if you have your mother language and then you move to a different country where no one speaks your mother language. So you start speaking the new language and it becomes, the language that you speak all the time. You can actually you start to forget your mother language because I don't know what's happening here. Computer's doing some weird stuff. Oh, Lakshmi, you started sharing a whiteboard. You better put the whiteboard away. Unless you want to draw pictures for us. Anyways, yeah, someone has to put this away, otherwise I'm going to start doodling. Okay. So, where was I? Yeah, so basically, a person in transcendental consciousness does not speak the language of materialism. That's it. They're not interested in prajalpa. They're not interested in mundane social events. They're not interested in earning money for sense gratification. They're aloof from all of that. Okay, let's go to the next two verses, 56 and 57. Sagar.
Hare Krishna. One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear and anger is called a sage of a steady mind. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge.
Okay, thank you. So here, Arjuna's question was simply, how does a person in Krishna consciousness speak? So Krishna's answering that question. How does a person with divine consciousness speak? And he answered it in a broad sense. So generally, we speak in response to someone else's speech, right? Someone says something, and then we respond to that. Someone asks us a question, and we answer. Or we see something happening in the world, and then we talk about it. So we speak in response to somebody else's speech or in response to a situation that invokes thoughts, feelings, or curiosity. So Krishna's answer here is not so much in relation to what people in transcendental consciousness actually say, but in how they respond to others. So he's saying here that, yeah, because we may be criticized by a person, we may be praised by another person, we may be completely ignored by another person. So how does a person in Krishna consciousness deal with that? And Krishna says, one who is not disturbed. So that's basically, Krishna says very clearly, they're not disturbed. Whether someone praises them, whether someone blames them, whether someone despises them, whether, the situation is miserable, whether it's happy, whether it's fearful, they're not disturbed. They're just totally equipoised. And
Free
then
from
Prabhupada explains, what's that?
free from the dualities. Free
Do
from the
what?
dualities.
Speak.
I'm saying free from the dualities.
Free from dualities. Yeah, free from dualities. Yeah, and then Prabhupada in the purport, he explains how the person becomes free from dualities, or how the person can be equally peaceful in all kinds of circumstances. So in the purport, about halfway through, I'm going to read a little bit. He says, such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds. and he sees that his miseries by the grace of the Lord are minimized to the lowest. So this is how the person in transcendental consciousness deals with distress. Whenever there's a distress or painful situation, he thinks, this is Krishna's mercy. Krishna's doing this to help me. He's doing this to teach me a lesson. He's doing this to show me that material life is miserable so that I can focus more on my spiritual life. And even the amount of distress he's giving me is just a small token of what I deserve. Actually, according to all the things I've done in my past life, I deserve so much more suffering. But Krishna is so kind. He's giving me only a little bit of suffering, and that just to teach me a good lesson, to, push me forward in my spiritual life, to help me take shelter of him, to help me to chant better with more feeling, more concentration. And Krishna is so merciful. Right? So then the person in distress doesn't actually become distressed. They become happy in Krishna consciousness. And then, how does a person in transcendental consciousness respond to happiness? The Krishna says in the next sentence, similarly, and Prabhupada writes, similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. So, yeah. So when happiness comes, we think, oh, something comes. Maybe we get some money, or we get some friendship, or we get our health becomes really good, or whatever. We get some good thing comes to us in life. Then we thank Krishna, thinking, Krishna, you're so kind. I don't deserve this. From my past activities, I shouldn't be having such good things coming into my life like this. But you're so kind. You're helping me to be able to serve you better, right? You're giving me some money so that I can have assets to engage in your service. I can have the resources to serve you in a better way. You're giving me friends so that I have support to encourage me in my spiritual life so that I can come closer to you. You're giving me comforts so that I can be well rested, I can be peaceful, I can feel secure, and I can just serve you without having to worry about how am I going to eat, how am I going to pay the bills. I can just focus on my service to you. So everything just is the Lord's mercy, somehow or other. Yeah. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification, and detachment is the absence of such sensual attachments. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry, even when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination. Yeah, because again, he understands the results are up to Krishna, and whatever Krishna wants is going to happen, and I'm happy with whatever Krishna wants, right? And even detachment, so detachment in the sense that a Krishna conscious person doesn't reject things. We don't reject the things of this world, but we use them in Krishna's service. What we're detached from is we're detached from the mood of enjoying those things for our sense gratification. Okay. Yeah, as Prabhupada says here in the purport of text 57, he says there is always some upheaval in the material world which may be good or evil, or at least it may seem to be good or evil. But, he says at the end of the purport, but one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by good and evil, because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is the all-good absolute. Such consciousness in Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically samadhi. Yeah, so that's the thing, is that a transcendental person, they're always absorbed in Krishna, and they have total faith that everything that Krishna does is good. So even if it seems to be bad, they know in their intelligence, it will tell them that no, okay, it seems bad, but it has to be good because somehow Krishna has sanctioned it, and Krishna's all good. But you know the story of the king, and I think it was Akbar, and he had his servant, his not servant, his minister. What was his minister's name?
Birbal.
Birbal.
Birbal. Yeah. So you know the story. So Akbar was one day he was doing something and he cut his finger. He cut one of his fingers out. I think he cut a piece of it off, or it was badly, badly injured. Anyway, so then he calls Birbal, 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 come see what happened. So Birbal goes there and he says, oh, my dear king, everything that Krishna does is good. So then Akbar became very angry. He said, how can you say it's hurting so badly? Can't you see I'm injured? This is serious. How can you say it's good? This is very bad. If you think my pain is good, then you can just go in the dungeon. So he threw him into the dungeon and locked him up. Okay, so then Akbar goes out hunting. And so he's hunting in the woods, and then this tribal people who are cannibals, they see him and they're like, oh, very nice human specimen, very fit, very hearty, healthy. Let's offer him to the goddess. So then they capture him because there's many of them and only one king. So they capture him up, they tie him up, they take him there and they bathe him, and they're inspecting his body to make sure that he's a very good offering for the goddess. And they see that, oh, he has some problem here with his finger, some deformity. Oh, he's not suitable, not good enough. This is damaged goods. We can't offer to the goddess. So they let him go. And then he goes running all the way back to the palace. He goes straight to the dungeon. He unlocks the door. He says, Birbal, I'm so sorry. You were totally right. It was such a good thing that I hurt my finger because it saved my life. I would be dead now if my finger was not injured. So then Birbal says, you see, everything Krishna does is good. And then so Akbar says, yes, you're very right. But what I don't understand is, you know, it was unfair that I put you in the dungeon for these days. How is it that that was a good thing? If everything that Krishna does is good, how is it good that you were locked up like this? And then Birbal says, well, my dear king, who usually goes with you on these hunting trips? And then Akbar says, he says, oh, you always accompany me. You're always my faithful companion on these hunting trips. And then Birbal says, and look, all my fingers are perfect. He said, they would have taken you out of the pot and they would have put me in there. I would have been offered to the goddess. So the fact that you put me in jail, in the dungeon, also saved my life. So everything that Krishna does is good. And then they both laughed and they just embraced each other and agreed that everything Krishna does is good. So sometimes we don't see, we don't have the foresight. We don't see the future. We're only seeing a snapshot. We don't see past. We know only a few things that happened in the past in this life. We have no idea what happened in the previous lifetimes. And we have no idea what the future is going to bring. We're seeing only this little snapshot in time now in the present, and we're thinking, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is terrible, oh, what a disaster. But Krishna is seeing everything, and he's like, don't worry, little Jiva, everything is good. I've got this under control, and I love you, and I care about you, and I know what's best for you, and I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. This is all for your good. So we have to have that faith that everything that Krishna does is good, and then we can be equipoised. We can be equal in all kinds of situations, right? Even amidst the threefold miseries, the person is not disturbed. Okay. So now let's go to the next question, right? Krishna's next answer. So now Krishna is going to answer the question, how do people in transcendental consciousness sit? How do they sit? So please read 58 and 59.
See, may I?
Let's see. I have Hitika with her hand up. You have to raise your hand, Kishore, next time.
The one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, it's firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Text number 60. The senses are so strong and impetuous, or Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them.
Okay, just stop there. Yeah, this was supposed to be 58 and 15. That's okay. So, yeah, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of our acharyas, he's the one who's explaining what these questions mean. And so he's saying that in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, he says that Arjuna's third question, how do they sit, means how do they sit among sense objects? So the idea is that in this material world, sense objects are everywhere, right? Everywhere we look, there's some object that could potentially be enjoyed by our senses, right? And also the senses are always urging us. They're always pushing us, enjoy this, enjoy that, smell this, taste that, touch that, see that, go have a closer look, right? So senses are always urging us to enjoy sense objects, and the sense objects are absolutely everywhere. So how does a person in transcendental consciousness remain peacefully situated, right? So how do they sit means how do they remain peacefully situated in a world full of sense objects? So now Krishna answers this question in two different ways. So first of all, in text 58, he says that people in transcendental consciousness have control over their senses. They're just like a turtle or a tortoise. That the tortoise, whenever there's some danger, then what do? They pull their legs into the shell and they pull the head into the shell. And then they're just this round shell, and the shell is a hard covering, so nothing can hurt them. They're like in their little hard case, suitcase. All the soft parts are protected. So, in the same way, when a person in transcendental consciousness is in a situation where the sense objects are off limits, right? Let's say he's walking to a place where there are a lot of bars and nightclubs and theaters and restaurants which are non-vegetarian. Then he pulls in the senses. He just doesn't engage. He's like, oh, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to listen to that. I'm just pulling in my senses because those things are not good for my spiritual life and they can't be used in the service of the Lord, right? Alcohol, meat, and, intoxication and all these mundane things. So he doesn't want to engage with them because they're going to distract him from his spiritual practice. But if those sense objects can be used in the service of the Lord, then he's going to accept them enthusiastically, right? If he's walking through the market where there's fruits and vegetables, then he's not going to pull in the sense. He's going to be like, oh, how much are those? They look good. I can offer those to Krishna. I can bring them to the temple. I can prepare a nice offering for my home deities or whatever. So theoretically, that sounds reasonable, right? We can withdraw the senses or we can use them. But withdrawing the senses is easier said than done, right? It's not so easy. And sometimes, even though we're trying to be Krishna conscious, when we're in a place where there's some nice opportunity for sense gratification, we don't have the spiritual strength to say no, right? Especially if we're with, materialistic friends or family members and everybody's doing that thing, then it can be very difficult to just say no, thank you. And also, we can't just go through life like a turtle in the shell because the soul is naturally active and the instruments of action are the body. So we can restrain ourselves for some time, but if the desire is there in the heart to enjoy sense objects, then how long are we going to go just repressing that desire, right? It's not practical. So then the second part of Krishna's answer is in text 59, where he addresses this. He says, okay, the world is full of sense objects, and you still have a desire to enjoy those sense objects. So then what to do? And the secret to dealing with this problem is that you need to get a higher taste, right? He says that the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, but the taste for sense objects remains. So then what to do? There's the senses. I want to enjoy them. How can I not fall down, basically? He says, but ceasing such engagements by experience a higher taste, the person can be fixed in knowledge. So yeah, spiritual life in Krishna consciousness is not a dry, boring life of abstinence and repression. It's just the opposite, right? In serving Krishna, there's so much to do. There's so much service, there's adventure, there's travel, there's excitement, and there's a lot of emotion, right? Spiritual life in Krishna consciousness is very dynamic. And the happiness that devotees feel in their services when they're engaged for the pleasure of the Lord is so enlivening, right? The taste that they get is so sweet that it automatically makes us disinterested in those objects of the senses. So the point is that, if you're starving, if you're very, very hungry, then whatever food someone gives you, you'll eat, because you're just starving. If somebody gives you some chapati that's like 3 days old, you'll just eat it because you're starving, right? But if someone gives you like fresh, hot chapati, hot puris, fresh, fried in ghee and still hot and crispy, then you're going to take that 3-day-old chapati and you're going to feed it to the cows and you're going to eat the puri, right? So same thing, that as long as we have no other source of happiness, we're going to be attached to sense gratification. That's the 3-day-old stale chapati, hard and dry, right? But as soon as we get a taste for Krishna consciousness, that's the fresh puri, crispy and hot and cooked in ghee. And we're going to throw the chapati out the window. So we'll give up our sense gratification very easily because Krishna consciousness gives us the higher taste. So this is Krishna's strategy, right? He's saying this is what a person in transcendental consciousness naturally does. If they're in a place where there's sense objects that they can't use in Krishna's service, then don't engage. Just, don't look there, don't go there, don't listen to that. Just keep walking. Just go to a different situation. And then by engaging in the senses in Krishna consciousness in practical ways, then you lose your taste for those things so that later you may be walking through the same situation and your senses are just like, you don't even have to pull the senses in because senses are not going there. Even if your senses are out, they're not going to be attracted by those material things anymore. So this is the solution. Aruna.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvatana. I have one query. So, it's like sometimes I know we try to control our sense and do the right things, but our family push us to the opposite direction to such situations. So, what can we do that time?
Yeah, we just have to. I mean, the thing is that if you're a child living at home, sometimes you don't have a choice. But if you're an adult, then you have to start just making your own choices. That's it. I have here I'm in the USA, but there's some a lot of Indian devotees who are part of the community, Indians, Nepalis, and young people who are here. There's either students or maybe they just started working. So they're still young. They're like in their 20s. And so they talk to their parents every day, and the parents are not happy that they're coming to ISKCON. Parents are saying, like, there's a girl, right? There's one girl, she's in college, she's going to university here, and she's a very sweet, young, beautiful girl. And her mother's always saying, what are you doing? If she sees her wearing a sari or some, clothes like that, she'll say, what are you doing? You should be wearing short skirts and going to parties. And her mother's literally like, I couldn't believe it that Nepali mother is telling her daughter, you should be wearing Western clothes and going to parties and meeting boys and things like that. I was so surprised. So the girl, she basically like, uh, yeah, she kind of doesn't tell the whole story to her mother about what she's doing, but every weekend she comes to the temple, she stays in the women's ashram, she's doing service, and she's bringing her friends also to the temple, and she's chanting 16 rounds. So she's just, I mean, it's easy for her because she's, thousands of miles away from the family. But she's like, yes, yes, Mata, whatever you say. But then she's making her own decisions about her life. So there comes a time where you just have to live your life, and not let your family members control your life, especially when you know that this is the higher path, right? Like, and the point is also that usually the family members, they mean well. You know, they want what's best for us, but they just don't know what's best for us because they don't get knowledge from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Right? They're just learning what their parents taught them, how they were trained, what they learned in school, which a lot of it is mundane. So they want you to have a good material life because that's what they think a good life is. They think if you have money and you have a nice home and you have a nice family, then you're going to be happy. But if we read Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a very different story. So we know that happiness doesn't come from those things. Happiness comes from a relationship with Krishna. It comes from devotional service. It's the higher taste. It's the higher path. So what you can do is just continue practicing Krishna consciousness, and then gradually they'll see that, okay, even if you're not doing all the things that they wanted you to do, but you're happy and you have a good life and you're safe and everything that you need is there. And then usually what happens is, devotees who they become brahmacharis against the will of their parents. Then after maybe like 10 years, 15 years or something, the parents see their son as a brahmachari and they see that he's doing very well. He has a lot of respect. He has a nice high position. He has some position and he's a preacher. He has followers, he's has everything he needs and maybe even more than his brothers who, just got material jobs and things. And they actually become devotees. The parents are just like, wow, out of all of our children, you're the best. You have the best qualities, you have the best life, you eat the best food, you have the best friends, you travel more than anybody, you have friends all over the world, in fact. Like, we should have all done what you did, and then the parents and the whole family ends up becoming devotees and getting initiated and stuff like that. So it just keep doing what you know is the right thing to do, and then even if your parents don't appreciate or even approve, but in time they will. Things will change in the future. Krishna Priya?
Thank you.
Hi, Krishna Mataji. Mataji, I have a question regarding using senses in the service of Krishna. So, in the purport, it is mentioned that if we use our senses in service of Krishna, it is like one way to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. But I have a question, like how can we, as a like practically, how can we differentiate that? Are we using our senses truly in the service of Krishna, or we are just using for like our own enjoyment in the name of a service? Say, for example, honoring prasadam. Sometime in honoring prasadam, we may like some things and we may don't like some things. And so, how can we say that we are honoring prasadam? So, this is also we are using our senses in the service of Krishna, because at this time we're actually serving our own senses. Because, as I mentioned with the example, so I just want to know how
Yeah.
can we truly differentiate it?
Yeah. I mean, at this stage, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just take prasadam and be happy. Don't worry too much. Am I trying to enjoy myself by prasadam? If you enjoy prasadam, it's not terrible, as long as you're not being offensive to the other types of prasadam that you don't like. Just respect all prasadam, but take the one that you like. And if somebody puts something on your plate that you don't like, you don't care for, you can eat it anyway or give it to someone else. But yeah, don't be disrespectful to some types of prasadam, but enjoy taking prasadam. Don't worry too much at this stage.
And if in other situations, if sometimes we see, I'm not having a right example now, I just gave a prasadam example, but in sometimes we see that some services we use in the name of a service, but it is actually for our own sense enjoyment, but it is not truly for Krishna service. So how can we differentiate it in most of the cases, Mataji?
Yeah. So we just have to be introspective, just be honest with ourselves. Yeah, but I mean, the way I look at it is this, you know, everybody wants to be happy, and we all have our in the beginning we're not totally pure in our pursuit of happiness. So even if our devotional service is not pure, even if it's mixed devotional service, right? Like I want to do this service because it makes me happy or because I can get some material benefit out of it, which I think is going to make me happy. Don't worry about it too much. Just do the service. Just do the service. Just stay connected to Krishna. And also, we should be doing service that suits our nature. And then we'll be happy anyway, because if we're doing what we like to do for Krishna, we'll be happy doing that thing because we like that thing. And we'll be even more happy because we're doing it for Krishna. So devotional service shouldn't be suffering. In material world, there's always difficulties, but we shouldn't force ourselves to do services that we hate and that we don't enjoy just because, I shouldn't be enjoying myself. I shouldn't think of my own enjoyment. Just do services that you're naturally inclined to or that you're asked to do. And just don't overthink it, And try to remember Krishna. Whatever you're doing, just try to be Krishna conscious while you're doing it and pray to Krishna for purification, associate nicely with devotees, and don't get mental about it. Don't get too mental about it. Otherwise, we can start to get down on ourselves and we can discourage ourselves from doing any service. Or if you force yourself to only do services that you don't enjoy, then you're not going to want to do service, right? Every time you go to do service, he's like, oh, I don't like doing that service, but I know I have to. I'm just forcing myself because I need to surrender. And anyways, I shouldn't be happy. We should be happy in Krishna consciousness. And it's okay to do what we like for Krishna. It's okay to eat what we like for Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Damni?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Actually, I want to ask something like when I talk about my personal thing, like I don't eat chicken, but whenever I'm sleeping, sometimes I dream about it that I'm eating chicken, I'm eating onion garlic food. So, like, why?
Yeah, when we dream, we have things that we see in dreams. It's just some different combinations of our past impressions. Whatever we experienced in this life and previous lives, it comes up in dreams. And sometimes it comes up in strange ways. It doesn't mean that you still have attachment to eating chicken. It just means that you have some samskara. You have some impression in your mind from the past of eating chicken. So don't worry about it. Don't get depressed. Don't think, oh, I'm a bad person. Just whatever. It's just a dream. It's not the reality. Reality is you don't eat chicken and you don't want to eat chicken. But sometimes our past habits come back to haunt us in dreams, and sometimes even when we're awake, we'll have some thoughts and memories. But just don't worry about it. Just ignore it. It's just a dream. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to text. Let's see. Why don't we read 61 to 63. This is going to be about the cause of spiritual fall down. Bina?
Yes, text number 61. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Text number 62. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person who develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Text number 63. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one fall down again into the material pool.
Okay, so Krishna is giving us the warning, right? He's describing that he's talking about sense control, and that the person in transcendental consciousness is able to control their senses, keeping them under full control, fixing his consciousness on Krishna. He can be steady. But sometimes it happens that even a person in transcendental consciousness can fall down, right? And we know that because You know, there are devotees that have come to Krishna consciousness, they're chanting 16 rounds, they're doing a lot of service and, you know, studying and even giving classes. But then at some point in their spiritual life, something goes wrong and they end up falling down. They end up stopping chanting their rounds, leaving the association of devotees and going back to material life. So now Krishna is going to tell us what is it that goes wrong. And he's telling us so that we can know how to avoid this. So he's basically saying, this happens. It's happened in the past, and this is how it happens, and don't let it happen to you. Okay, so we need to understand this. So he says that it starts with contemplating the objects of the senses. So you see something that your senses are attracted to, senses want to enjoy that thing, and then you start thinking about it, right? Not just that you see it, because we're always seeing things. We're always, like I said, the world is full of sense objects. Everywhere you look, you walk down the street, you see sense objects. Even in your own house, you see sense objects. But it's when we contemplate them, we stay thinking about it, right? Like, let's say you're walking down the street and you pass a bakery, right? And then in the window of that bakery, they have some nice big chocolate cake. Okay. And let's say you have a sweet tooth, you like cake. So you see this beautiful chocolate cake in the window of the bakery, and you know that bakery is, they use eggs in all their cakes. So you see the cake, you know it has eggs in it, so you know you shouldn't have it. But you should have just, so you might have seen it out of the corner of your eye, and then you should have just kept walking, right? You should have been like the tortoise, you know, just turn your eyes away and keep walking. But no, you stayed looking at it. You stopped and you turned and you faced that cake and you're looking at it and you're thinking about it, right? So you're contemplating, oh, that icing looks so creamy. Oh, just look, there's a slice cut out of it and I can see that it's got like layers, and in between the layers, there's like fresh cream and there's strawberry jam, and you know, it looks so fluffy and moist. You're contemplating, oh, how it's going to taste, how it's going to feel, how it's going to make me feel, how it's going to make me happy. You're contemplating. And then when we contemplate, right, this is dhyato. So this is dhya means dhyan, like literally you're meditating on it, right? You're doing dhyan on the cake. So dhyato vishayam pumsam. Then what happens? Sangas. Sangas teshu pajayate. You develop attachment. You become attached to that cake. And then now at this point, you can't walk away. You have an attachment to this cake. You're like, no, I, I can't live without that cake. Right? If you're attached to something, you can't live without it. So you, in your mind, you're like, I cannot live without that cake. I cannot walk away from here without that cake. And so then from that attachment comes sangat sanjayate kama, lust or desire. So now you have an intense desire for that cake, right? At first you just noticed it, it was okay. But then because you contemplated it too much, now you want it, right? I want that cake. Not only do I want that cake, I need that cake, right? So now you're like really obsessed with it. Okay, so then your devotee friend comes along, and devotee friend comes and they take you by the arm. You're like, what are you doing staring at that cake? It's the bogus, you know, Carmen cake with eggs in it. Let's get out of here. And then you get angry, right? Because now, you know, this need, this strong desire, this attachment that you have is being threatened. So this person who's threatening your enjoyment, you get angry with them. You're like, who are you? Stop trying to boss me around. What do you know about what's good for me? You're just an idiot. You're just jealous. Just get out of here. You know, so then you shout at your friend because you're angry because he's disturbing your whole meditation there. And yeah, so you become angry with him, you offend him, and then he just looks at you like, oh my God, this guy's a lost cause, and he walks away. So now there you're alone. So now the next thing is from Krodha Bhavati Sammoha. So then you become deluded, right? Sammoha means bewildered. So now you can become completely bewildered, and you, from that bewilderment, Sammoha Smriti Vibhrama. Smriti means your memory becomes clouded. In other words, yeah, your memory becomes bewildered. So now you forget everything. You forget the purpose of your life is to go back to Godhead. It's not to enjoy cake in this world. You forget that, you're aspiring for initiation and you're trying to observe no meat eating, including fish or eggs. And you forget, that you're not this body and you shouldn't be controlled by the senses. And you basically forget everything that you learned about Krishna consciousness, everything that you're trying to achieve. You forget all the principles and values that you're trying to live by. And then the next thing that happens is, Smriti Brahm said, Buddhi naso, your intelligence becomes lost. So not now, maybe before, while you were first just looking at the cake, your intelligence was telling you, hey, this cake's got eggs in it. This is not good for your Krishna consciousness. You should not be just looking at it. Intelligence is trying to preach to you. But at this point, the intelligence is gone. No more intelligence. The intelligence is just gone with the wind. And you lost your internal compass. You have no guide. You have no sense of right or wrong anymore. And so when the intelligence is lost, then that's it. You walk in the door of the bakery and you go and buy the cake and you just eat it. You fall down into the material pool. Okay, so I've given a relatively innocent example here of the cake, but I'm sure you can imagine ways in which this could be a lot less innocent. It could get a lot worse. And so this is the way that, sometimes we've seen that even sannyasis, they'll get attracted to a woman who's not even a devotee, and they'll go off and just marry some non-devotee woman, because of this, because of just thinking about her for too long, getting attached, lust arises, they become deluded, they forget their values, their priorities in life, their intelligence switches off, and then they just end up going and doing something that's like disgraceful, like absolutely disgraceful. They give up everything, they give up their position, they lose their respectability, they get, banned from ISKCON temples, and, just like they destroy their whole life. So this happens, unfortunately. So you have to be very careful. So the moral of the story here is don't contemplate the object of the senses. Don't meditate on sense objects, meditate on Krishna. Right? So if you see that cake in the window, don't stop. Just turn your head and go, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Call out to Krishna, call out to the devotees, right? Call out to that devotee friend that was lagging behind and be like, hey, where are you? Come here, I need you. Daya?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, then here can't we see the Krishna sanctified these things? Like one is being like entangled into the things, contemplating on the things, and coming again into material pool. There must be the sanction of Krishna, or not?
Yeah, I mean, Krishna sanctions everything. The thing is that Krishna, he doesn't force us to do anything. If we desire something strongly enough, then Krishna will allow. He might make some way to protect us, right? Like I was telling you that, was I telling you this story or someone else? I was telling you about when I was on Sankirtan, and then this friend, my Sankirtan partner, came along. She's like, let's go to the bar. Did I tell you that story? No, you would have remembered it, right? Anyways, so I was out on book distribution one time. I was a very new devotee. I think I'd been a devotee for maybe like 2 weeks or something. Anyways, we went out on Sankirtan. This was in England, and it was a very bad day. It was like a rainy, cloudy day, and everybody was just grumpy. No one wanted to talk to us. No one wanted the books. Everyone was just saying no and being rude. And so I was standing there on the street by myself trying to distribute books and getting totally frustrated. And it was cold and everything. And then my Sankirtan partner, she came over and she said, oh, hey, how is it going? I said, oh, it's not going well at all. It's terrible. And then she said, yeah, I'm also having a very rough day. It's very difficult for me too. And I said, what should we do? And she said, you know what I want to do? And then I said, what? She said, let's just go to the pub. She's like, pub in England, it means like a bar where they sell alcoholic drinks. And I was like, what? I was so new. And she said, yeah, at least we can sit in a warm place and we can just get a drink and forget about this. She was also very new. We were both too new really to be out in the street by ourselves. Anyways, I wasn't even a drink. Even before I became a devotee, I didn't drink. So for me, it was like very random. It was just like, why would we do that? But I thought, I don't want to stand out here anymore. So, okay, let's go. I'll just sit there. I'll just order an orange juice or something and whatever. So we started walking. And then as we were walking down the street on the way to the bar, um, we passed one store where they were selling some, like sort of like a boutique where they sell like a gift shop. And then they had a little statue of Buddha in the window, and it was the laughing Buddha. And I said, look, Buddha's laughing at us because he thinks we're so crazy, going to the bar when we're supposed to be distributing Prabhupada's books. And then we both looked and we're like, oh no, Buddha's seeing what we're doing. And then she's like, no, it's just a gift shop. It doesn't matter. And then we keep walking, and then we pass another shop on the other side of the street, and it's like a perfume shop, and they have perfumes and incenses. And then there's one packet of incense that's from Spiritual Sky Incense, which is a devotee company, and it has a picture of Krishna, just like total Krishna standing there playing his flute and everything. And I'm like, look, you didn't believe Buddha. What about Krishna? Krishna's standing right there. He sees this crazy thing that we're gonna do, and he's trying to stop us. Can't you get it? He's sending us a message. You guys have to stop. Remember me. Don't do this thing. So the thing is that, yeah, sometimes we might contemplate the object of the senses and get attached to some, bad idea. But Krishna has his ways of, trying to block us. He won't force us to stop, but he'll send some hints, that this is not good. I see what you're doing. I'm here. Remember me and do the right thing. So like that, he saves us. But if we're very, very determined, then we'll just ignore those hints and we'll go ahead and do it. So yeah, safe thing is just don't think about it too much. Try not to think about sense gratification because yeah, like I said, there are some sannyasis that have fallen. But also I think that in order for it to happen in a really, really bad way, it's not just that you had a desire. It's also that probably those devotees commit some offenses to other devotees, right? Because usually that's the beginning of, if you're doing well in Krishna consciousness and you've been practicing for many years and you're well situated, and all of a sudden these material desires just out of nowhere become very strong, right? The lust becomes very compelling all of a sudden, whereas previously it wasn't bothering you, and now it's just like a burning fire in your mind. It's probably because you committed some Vaishnava aparad, because that's the reaction. That's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Madhurya Kadambini. He says that when we commit Vaishnava aparad, we offend devotees, then what happens is that we lose our taste for devotional activities and our material desires become strong again. So there's usually some connection between offenses and fall downs. Yeah. So if your material desires become strong, you should think, who did I offend? And go to all the devotees that you associate with and ask them, did I say something wrong? Did I say something to hurt your feelings or discourage you? If so, please forgive me and try to rectify the offense. Okay. All right, let's read a little bit more then. We still have some time. 64 and 65. Now he's going to answer the last question, which is how does a person in transcendental consciousness walk? How do they walk? Okay, go ahead and read. Ishwara.
Manisha. Mataji, may I?
Oh, who's that? Okay, yes, you didn't. I don't have your name there, but you didn't read yet. So go ahead.
But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. And text number 65. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold mysteries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established.
Thank you. So yeah, this is the answer to how do they walk? How does a person in transcendental consciousness walk? So of course, this doesn't mean do they walk fast? Do they walk slow? Do they take big steps? Do they take small steps? He's not asking that, but he's asking, he wants to know, how do they act, right? How do they move within the world? Or sometimes we talk about someone has a certain walk of life, right? They have a mode of living or acting in this world. So Krishna answers that, yeah, people who are fixed in transcendental consciousness, the way that they act in this world is that they act according to regulative principles, right? He says that they control their senses by acting according to regulative principles of freedom. So using their intelligence, they mold their lives in accordance with the injunctions of the scriptures and the instructions of their spiritual masters. And in this way, their senses, the mind, the intelligence are linked to Krishna and they become happy. Different what we saw in text 62. Acting according self-indulgent activities or activities for sense gratification make us frustrated and angry and deluded and foolish. But if we follow regulative principles of devotional service and act under the direction of the spiritual master, not taking our actual bona fide spiritual master as a guru and not taking our minds and senses as gurus, then it's the opposite. We're blessed with transcendental intelligence, with controlled senses, and with real happiness. So, yeah. So then what are the main regulative principles of devotional service that we need to follow? First and foremost, we need to accept the guidance of a qualified spiritual master, spiritual teacher, Diksha Gurus, Shiksha Gurus, mentors, like that. And then we need to chant the holy name, right? This is the Yuga Dharma, the important regulative principle for this age, that Lord Chaitanya said that out of all the 9 processes of devotional service, the most important is to chant the holy name. And Prabhupada prescribed 16 rounds every day of japa. And then we need to associate with devotees. So find devotees who are dedicated to serving the Lord, who are more advanced than we are, preferably, and get their association. And then hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam like you're doing now. So this is a regulative principle that will free you from material suffering. And worshiping the deity, right? Going to the temple, doing kirtan, or offering arti for your home deities. And then living in a sacred place, right? Going to places of pilgrimage to whatever extent you can. Or living in a sacred place can mean living in a temple ashram, or making your home into a temple and living there, or living with devotees, right? Maybe if you're on your own, you get a shared apartment with devotees and you live together and you make it like a temple ashram. So these are the main potent processes of devotional service, the main regulative principles of freedom that we all have to follow. And then we can get free from attachment and aversion, and we can come to this transcendental consciousness. So then in the next verses, Krishna continues to emphasize that if our activities are not connected to the Lord, then we can never be peaceful or happy. So someone please read 66. Go ahead, Ishwar.
Hare Krishna. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace?
Yeah, so here Krishna is raising this hypothetical question that, yeah, if your life is disconnected from the Lord, then how are you going to have spiritual intelligence or a steady mind? And without a steady mind, how can you be peaceful? And if you can't be peaceful, then how can you be happy? So basically, you have to be connected to the Lord to be happy. So yeah, everybody wants to have a happy life, right? If you ask everyone, no one wants to be miserable. Everyone wants to be happy. But the problem is that people are looking for happiness and peace in the wrong place, right? Looking for happiness in the material world is like looking for water in the desert. It's just not there. There might be some illusion, right? Like you might see some mirage and think, oh, there's an oasis up there. There's some water. I can see it. Just keep walking. And then you get there. As soon as you get there, it's not there. You realize, oh no, it was only a mirage. So in the material world, people have hope. Oh, if I get this, I'll be happy. If I get that, I'll be happy. And then they get it and they're not happy. It was just a false hope. So yeah, if we're in a desert and we need water, then there are two things that we can do. So in the desert of material life, we're looking for happiness. It's not there. So there are two things that we can do. So if you're in the desert, one thing you can do is get out of the desert. And another thing you can do is turn the desert into good land, irrigated land, by making a canal. So canal, you know what a canal is? You cut a big ditch. You cut this ditch that connects to a reservoir of water from some far distant place, and then the water flows through the canal and goes into the desert, and then it makes the desert gradually into a good soil. You can grow crops, you can live there, right? So people use that for agriculture. So in the same way, we're in this material world. We want to be happy in the material world. We have two choices. One is get out of the material world, right? Go back to Godhead. Go to the spiritual world where we can be eternally happy. Yeah, so that's the ultimate goal. But right now we're not ready for that. We have to wait till the end of our lives, and we have to cultivate Krishna consciousness very seriously. So what to do in the meantime is we can do option 2, which is turn this material world into the spiritual world, or turn our material lives into spiritual lives by connecting everything to Krishna. Whatever we do it for Krishna. Whatever we eat, offer it to Krishna. We have any extra money, donate it to Krishna. Use it for Krishna. If you want to study, learn about Krishna. If you have free time, chant Hare Krishna. If you need a friend, make friends with a devotee of Krishna. In that way, it becomes a spiritual life, and then we can be happy and peaceful in this world. So that's the connection between peace and happiness and Krishna consciousness. Okay, we just have 2 minutes left, so I think we better stop with reading verses because we need to end on time. And if anyone has any closing comment or reflection, Aruna?
Hare Krishna. Mataji, I have some confusion about Mahabharata history and Bhagavad Gita. So, before a long time, I watched Mahabharata. So that was, I remember. So, yeah, I remember before the Mahabharata, Krishna went as a peace messenger and to avoid the battle. So when Duryodhan tried to when Duryodhan tried to bind Krishna, so Krishna revolved his Virat Rup. So which even Dhritarashtra saw the Dhritarashtra saw with divine visions. So then why did Dhritarashtra still not stop the war?
Yeah, well, that's the nature of Maya, that even seeing, we don't see. right? Pashyan api na pashyati. That's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. That even seeing, they don't see. And that's the nature of this attachment. That's what Krishna is talking about in this verses 62 to 63. That when we become very attached to something, right? Dhritarashtra wanted his son to be the king. He contemplated that for many days and many years. He was contemplating that since Duryodhana was born. And so he got very attached to the idea. He strongly desired that. And then he got angry because the Pandavas were challenging that. And he became deluded. And then he lost his intelligence, he lost his memory, and he basically fell down from any semblance of Krishna consciousness or what was right and wrong, and he ended up supporting something very bad.
But then time Dhritarashtra, no, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So why he can't? But then time Dhritarashtra, no, Krishna is the Arjun side. Definitely Arjun won the war. So why he can't stop the? He cannot stop
Because
the
no intelligence. I mean, you're thinking that because you're using your intelligence. But when the intelligence is lost, you can't think that way. You can't think rationally. You lose the ability to think rationally. And you just act out of emotions, and then you do something very irrational. That happens all the time.
And here, Krishna, why it's like why show the divine visions for the trust? Because trust is the not a. It's like right, tell me.
What's that?
I say, there in their time, Krishna, why show their and a divine vision for the trust? Their time, the trust is not a good person now.
Oh, because he was trying to help the Pandavas. He did it as a service, right? He was the peace messenger.
Yeah.
Okay, we better actually stop because I got requested that we end on time. So those of you who have your hands up, maybe you can just you can type your questions or comments into the WhatsApp group, and then I'll try to respond to them. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Mataji. Thank you so
Hare
much,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.